for just running out, grabbing the first thing you see just because it's on sale, just because it's a good price and it has
Hey, what's up guys? It's Chris from Daily Tech, and this is episode 2 of a 4-part series exploring an amazing PS4 Pro setup. So episode 1 was all about unboxing and getting things set up, so check that out if you haven't already. But in this episode, we're going to be doing some testing and demos of some great games in different modes to give you an idea of how they work, like Rise of the Tomb Raider, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, and Batman Arkham VR. And in a later episode, I'm going to be testing Battlefield 1 on both the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S, so stay tuned for that. But this episode isn't just about tests and demos, it's also going to be covering some of the settings that I'm using because I always get a bunch of questions about that. But just a quick note before we get started, any of the stuff that you see in this episode that you might want to buy, I've got the links for those down in the description below, and also I'm giving away a PS4 Pro, so make sure to enter that giveaway. Again, the link is down in the description. So what's kind of at the heart of this setup is the PS4 Pro paired with the Samsung KS8000, which is a perfect companion because it displays 4K and HDR content. Now on this particular setup, it's really important to go into your settings on the TV and enable the HDMI UHD color for the specific HDMI port or ports that you've got an HDR device hooked up to. You're also going to want to enable game mode, and yes, HDR does work in game mode. Increase your backlight to max, set the color space to auto, and set the smart LED to high. Now, as I was getting set up, I ran into a really annoying issue related to the PSVR and HDR. Basically, if you've got the PSVR hooked up, you're not going to be able to use the HDR and vice versa. So going through the PSVR's processing unit screws up the HDR. But as soon as I did a direct connection and bypassed that PSVR processing unit, then the HDR started working. Okay, so on your PlayStation, you want to go into your video output settings and set the resolution to 2160p, set the HDR and deep color output to automatic. But the settings on the PS4 Pro get a little bit more complicated on a game-by-game basis because Sony left it up to the developers how to best utilize the new console. So some games might get better graphics, some might get better performance, and some might get HDR, but it's not gonna be the same across the board. Now keep in mind for these demos, even though I'm filming in 4K, which you should turn up if you haven't already on YouTube, you're not gonna really be able to see and experience things how they really are and how I'm seeing them. So we're gonna start things off with Rise of the Tomb Raider because it does something that's really interesting. It gives players the option of switching between 3 different graphic modes. So in the in-game options under Enhanced Fidelity, you can switch between the following 3 options: 4K resolution, high frame rate, and enhanced visuals. High frame rate provides for smoother gameplay if you just want to run through things as quickly as possible with seamless controls. Enriched visuals turns up the graphical features of the game for a lusher and more realistic experience in 30 frames per second, so lighting, multipass rendering, texture shading, reflections, density of pixels, density of particle effects, all that stuff gets turned on. And 4K resolution, that's pretty obvious. You'll just be seeing more details that would have otherwise disappeared. Now, one thing that's really cool about this is that switching between these game modes actually happens in real time. So I actually really love what the developer did here. These in-game options are really awesome. This is the right way to handle a PS4 Pro game if you ask me. But in all honesty, it can be tricky at times to tell the difference between the 4K mode and the enhanced visuals mode unless you're really looking, and most of the time, you're just playing. Alright, so next up, let's take a look at Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, which has been remastered through a patch for the PS4 Pro. Now in this case, the developers took a totally different route than did the developers for Rise of the Tomb Raider. There's no 4K option here. Instead, you're gonna get bumped up to 1440p from 1080p on the regular PS4. And apparently it was the developer's goal to provide more detail in textures and smoother, sharper edges that better distinguish the characters, effects, and the environment. But what it lacks in 4K, it does try to make up for in the HDR department with a drastically expanded color range and brightness. And the overall effect, I have to say, is really nice because I've said it before, HDR can often feel like a bigger enhancement than 4K. Alright, so now it's on to Batman Arkham VR, which is actually the first serious VR game I've ever tried. Honestly, this is a pretty awesome game, and the PSVR experience is pretty mind-blowing for the first time. I'm going to talk about that more in another video, but suffice it to say, this game has only okay graphics, and that is due to the PSVR's limitations, And also I have to note that the gameplay moves along kind of slowly because you're playing Batman the detective, not Batman the ninja. But still, this is a really fun game that I really didn't want to put down. All right, so there you go with some settings as well as some game demos, and there's a lot more to come. Still, I'm gonna be doing my reviews as well as a comparison between the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S, so stay tuned for that. But don't forget to enter the PS4 Pro giveaway, and all the product links are down in the description below. And don't forget to follow @DailyTech on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And stay tuned for the next episode, which will be starting right now. Later.
Here we go. You hear that? Get back. Locked on. Get back. Love it.
Today I'm just going to do a quick run through of what you should be looking for when you buy a new TV. Recently in my comments I've been getting questions about what TV I'm using and what TV you should pick up. So I'm just going to go through what you should be looking for, maybe what TV you should get, and what I currently have. Let's get to it. Now I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible, and I'm just going to run through a couple of key features you should be looking for when you're buying a new TV. Right now the biggest feature for me would be HDR, meaning high dynamic range. Now this is what I'm talking about usually in all my Blu-ray reviews, and this is the contrast between the darkest dark and the brightest white. And this really means that you're going to get the brighter colors that really pop. There's going to be a lot of contrast in the image, and overall it's just going to be a really colorful, vivid image. And really that's where the 4K Blu-ray shines in my opinion. And the second thing you're going to be looking for in the TV is a 4K panel most likely. Now you still can get 1080 panels, we'll get to that a little later in the video, but most likely you're going to be looking for a 4K panel. Next thing you're going to have to do is choose the type of panel. Now this is really where it gets important. You either choose LED panel, which is, more budget friendly, or if you want to really go all out and have the best image quality, you go OLED. That's currently what I have. Now with LED, you can get a 4K LED TV with high dynamic range in the 50 to 55 inch range for about $450 to $500. Very good price point. The OLEDs, on the other hand, 55 inch with high dynamic range, is going to be about $2,500. You can find it on sale for about $1,700 to $1,800 So if you're looking for a budget, just make sure it's an LED TV, high dynamic range, and a 4K display. Now, if you're looking for OLED, you're really in a different ballpark because you're getting, for one, you're getting your 4K display, you're getting the HDR, you're getting the HDR10 as well as the Dolby Vision HDR, which is only on the LG OLEDs, which is used in apps like Voodoo. But more importantly, the OLEDs just give such a better quality image than the LEDs. The blacks actually shut the panel off, the pixels actually don't light up at all. So when you watch a movie in widescreen, the black bars on the top and bottom blend in perfectly, and it's as if the TV isn't there. It really is fantastic, and I can't exaggerate it enough. So overall, I do recommend the OLED, but if you can't afford the OLED, which is very understandable, I would go with the 4K high dynamic range panel, any size you want. Just make sure it has HDR, and make sure you get it's 4K, and you can get a pretty good budget panel for that. Now onto my setup. A lot of people have been asking my setup. I have the LG 55-inch curved OLED, last year's model, and the Samsung K8500 4K Blu-ray player. I also have the NVIDIA Shield, which is a streaming console that can stream in 4K and also stream HDR as well through the Vudu app as well as the Netflix app. So it is a really nice addition to your 4K home theater if you're looking for one. So anyway, guys, that's just a quick rundown on what to look for in a new TV and my personal setup. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below. And if you like the video at all, please throw me a thumbs up and subscribe down below for more content. Have a good night, guys.
Gonna be big.
Alright, so if you guys didn't already, well, I'm here with Stuckman. We're here on a flick trip to Best Buy. He needed to pick up Deepwater Horizon. Hey, what are you doing? Is this an oil rig or something? Is it gonna explode? And then the accountant, I love the accountant. Yes. I had the Blu-ray, it's still in the cellophane, I got it a few weeks ago. I don't have the 4K though. But then again, I don't own a 4K TV, so I don't need it. And Jerry Maguire. This guy he's a little bit gay for Tom Cruise. I get it. There's nothing wrong with that.
I like Tom Cruise.
I mean, you told me one time you took a picture of Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible 3 to a hair place, and you said, make me look like that.
And they really fucked it up too.
You know, I have a story related. When I was in 5th grade, I took a picture of George Clooney to the hair place, and I said, cut my hair like that.
Really?
And then when I was done, she's like, don't forget your picture of George. and I took, yeah.
Was it George Clooney from Batman and Robin?
No, it was George Clooney from like One Fine Day or something.
Oh, the ER.
Yeah, it was a classic George Clooney. Yeah. Okay, how much do you think this is right here?
No, don't do it. But
Why?
What you got?
What is this? What's
$10,000.
oh, it's only $10,000.
Yeah.
I'll buy 2 of them. Is this even OLED? Yeah.
They look amazing in the store.
Sure.
Because there's a million lights on.
Yeah.
You take them home, you put it in your office or whatever, and you turn the lights off.
You see the black levels? And the thing is, all these TVs, like if you look in the corners, you can see lights leaking through. Yeah, I've actually bought a lot of TVs in my life, and I've returned a lot of TVs the next day.
Yeah, I think you and I are very similar, where we're very particular about the image.
Well, we're anal retentive assholes with picture quality, but I think that you should be.
You're gonna pay couple $1,000s for a TV. It's gotta be perfect.
Every pixel should count.
Yeah. This is pretty much what I have, except mine's curved and this is flat.
Mine's curved too. I'm not talking about the TV. Yeah, dude. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys know something right now. Okay, so I got to Stuckman's house yesterday. We're watching movies on his like 65-inch OLED 4K curved TV, super duper ultimate edition that makes everything in 3D and also gives you a back massage. And I want it now. I talked myself out of 4K for a long time, but now after watching it and watching the 3D of Star Wars Episode 7 yesterday, I need it and I want it, so I think that's the next purchase for me. This current model though, here's the problem. Yeah, fuck that.
Well, I got mine on sale.
I know, see, that's the thing, and that same...
I think
28, see, that's reasonable. I feel like in another 6 months, it'll be like $2 grand. But still, that's, and that one's not even curved.
No.
Do you like the curve? Do you prefer the curve?
Yeah, it's supposed to be more relaxing to your eyes.
Really?
From what I understand. There's only one left.
No, there's not only one left. They just got one.
There's only one.
And no one. And for the next 9 months, that same copy will be there. No one will buy it.
I hope so.
But I feel like you kind of want it.
I know.
Just a little.
I'm gonna come back every week and check to see if that's there, and it'll become my friend.
Doesn't a little part of you want to take that one copy of Max Steel right down there and just hide it somewhere in obscurity so no one can ever find it and no one ever has to go through the agonizing pain of watching it or accidentally buying it?
It's just for me.
This Best Buy is probably one of the most dead Best Buys I've ever been in, ever.
Really?
Yeah, there's
Like, not a lot of people.
not a lot of people, and I like the way it's laid out because you have a lot of dead space and no one bothers you.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Like, look over here. We could just go over there and hang out all day. No one would bother us. All right, so tonight we're actually going to see the upcoming classic horror film that will define a decade. It's Bye Bye Man. Don't say it, Chris. Don't even
say
think
his
it.
name.
Don't think
No,
it. He'll get you.
don't say his name.
So we're gonna see that, review that. We'll do a collab review
my
that.
life.
That'll be on your channel.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know the best thing is I'm really looking forward to seeing this.
I am actually too. There's something about January it's shit.
Yes.
But it's like a little bit refreshing after like a month of Oscar movies.
Yes.
To just watch disposable garbage.
Just to like let your brain leak out of your ear and just enjoy it. But here's the problem with this movie. If they actually try and it just doesn't succeed on any level, I'm just gonna be bored.
Yeah.
But if they tried so hard that they just didn't know what they were doing and it's so shitty, then it's gonna be a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
That's what I need and that's what I want.
No, I wouldn't.
I would if she was hot. Yeah! All right, guys. So we're in the car. I like the beep sound. It's okay. So we're in the car now. It's a shitty, miserable, rainy day in Ohio. We got some snacks, some M&Ms, licorice, and a Pepsi Zero.
Coke Zero.
Coke Zero. You never correct me again, Chris.
You're in my car, bitch!
Fine. That's fine. I will slap you in the tits with this licorice. You don't like licorice, do you?
It's okay. It's alright.
I specifically remember what you told me when I first met you 4 or 5 years ago. You told me, I don't like to eat fruity snacks.
I'm not a big fan of sour fruit.
Okay.
I really like gummy bears, and I like Jolly Ranchers are good. But I'm not a big fan of your all-time favorite thing, Sour Patch Kids.
You don't like Sour Patch Kids? Give me your hand. Just give me your hand. That's for blowing up my wife's house, and this is for hitting my daughter in the eye. By the way, he put back Jerry Maguire. I watched him do it.
I have it already.
It's like, does anyone?
I don't need the new thing.
It's Jerry Maguire.
I have the Blu-ray.
You got to see that in 4K restoration.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chris from Daily Tech, and today I've got a review of the 2016 Samsung KS8000 SUHD TV series. And we're going to simply start things off by talking about how good the picture quality looks. So this is a 4K UHD TV, and 4K obviously is 4 times the definition resolution of regular HD TV, but the HDR is what makes this TV special. Of all the technologies that have come along that TV manufacturers have tried to get people to upgrade with, HDR is actually going to make a big splash. I think it's going to be a little bit tricky showing the quality of this TV, especially if you aren't watching this in 4K or HDR, but needless to say, it's really, truly, seriously incredible. This is the kind of picture that you can get lost in and immersed in a story, which is basically the whole point of a TV in the first place. So if you're playing the right kind of content, this picture looks crystal clear, and even the 4K upscaling makes 1080p content, even 720p content, look amazing. For the 1080 stuff, the regular HD, it's hard to tell if it's 4K or HD, honestly. That's how good it looks. The only thing that I can even come up with to gripe or complain about even a little bit is that every now and then, very infrequently, I've come across a little bit of moire when you get some close lines together on a screen. I mean, I've never seen a TV where that hasn't been the case, but I have noticed it just a little bit here. Not a deal breaker. Now, the colors on this series of TVs are really eye-popping, almost to the point of looking kind of surreal. And there are a few different viewing modes which you can easily choose from, including standard, dynamic, movie, and natural, and I find myself mostly watching content in the standard or dynamic options. For me, the dynamic is almost too saturated, but the contrast is incredible. The whites get so white and the darks get so black, and the colors are so vivid, but it almost just doesn't look natural. So it's fun for some content, but most of the time I find myself parked in that standard viewing mode. So you're probably getting the picture that the darks are really dark and the lights are really light, and that makes for some great contrast. The one downside here really has nothing to do with the actual quality of the picture, but rather the reflective surface of the screen itself. When those deep dark blacks get on the screen, you can see a little bit of the reflection of whatever's facing the TV. It's not a big deal, it's not a deal breaker, and you only see it a little bit of the time. And really, honestly, the reflections are basically non-existent most of the time because the screen is just super, super bright. Okay, so that's the picture, but let's talk about the interface, which is awesome. This is really streamlined, super simple, and easy to use. Samsung has done a great job of keeping all of the options and apps at your fingertips that you would actually probably likely use, and hiding everything else that's more advanced a little bit deeper in the menu. And those are still easy to access as well. So for this series of TVs, Samsung has ditched the Smart Hub button that was found on previous models of Samsung SUHD TVs, and I think that was a really good move. Now all you have to do is hit the home button and it brings up all the relevant apps and information and settings right on the bottom of the screen. It doesn't take up too much room and it's easy to navigate. One thing I really like about this menu are the quick options. So it's very quick and easy to change the picture mode, like I've already talked about, or you can easily change things like the sound output from the internal speakers to your external home theater system. One area here where there was just a little bit of an issue was with the app connectivity. I could not hook up the Amazon app for about 3 or 4 days. After that, it connected and worked great. All of the other apps worked great. It was just that one app that gave me a little bit of trouble, and I saw on some Amazon reviews that other people had had similar issues. So my advice is if you do run